guys, it's Courtney here with King Realty and Management. Thank you for tuning in for another video. Today is for buyers and sellers alike. We are talking all about how to negotiate repairs on a home. So if you are under contract to purchase a home, or you are a seller and you're under contract to sell your home, this video is for you. It's three main things that you can do when you're negotiating these repairs. So let's talk for a moment on how we got here. We went under contract, meaning buyers and sellers came together and said, hey, we agree on these terms of purchasing the property. Typically in Texas, there's what is called an option period. This gives the buyer the ability to inspect the property and the option to back out of the deal for any reason during a set period of time from the date that everybody signs the contract, okay? So now you have the inspection report, and now the buyers and sellers come together and they start negotiating for repairs, okay? So the number one thing I tell clients is take a look at the report as a whole, okay? And especially if I'm dealing with a buyer, I am telling them, you know, I'm asking them, what items do you feel are important? From a professional standpoint, the big ticket items are usually most important, like the roof, like the plumbing, like the HVAC, like the foundation. Those are the main things. Now, as a broker, I usually advise my buyers on some of the items that may come up in the appraisal process later on, you know, or may be required to be repaired by the lender. I just coach them through that. Those are some things that we may want the seller to address. But here's the three main options that buyers and sellers have when they negotiate repairs, okay? So a buyer can say, hey, seller, you know what? I'm gonna take the property as is, but I want you to give me money instead of doing these repairs, okay? So oftentimes what that looks like is the seller will say, okay, yeah, I see the inspection report. You know, yeah, some of this stuff is wrong. I will give you, you know, $5,000 in lieu of these repairs. So typically that $5,000 usually goes to their closing costs. And it basically reduces the amount of money that the buyer has to bring to the table in order to close, okay? Typically, if a buyer wants to do something like that, the buyer will propose an amount to the seller. We go back and forth a couple of times until we come to an agreement and then sign a final amendment. Now, if a buyer doesn't want the money to go towards their closing costs instead of the repairs, but they want the actual repairs, this is where a buyer can say, I want you to do repairs A through D, okay? And as a buyer's agent, what I would do is just itemize those repairs and submit the request to the listing agent to see if the seller will do the repairs. Now, the seller has an option. The seller can say, nope, I'm not gonna do the repairs, and maybe offer in good faith money instead of doing those repairs. Or the seller can pick and choose, and they can say, you know what, I will do these 2 repairs, but I'm not gonna do, you know, the remaining repairs. Guys, this is part of negotiation. This is part of why I like what I do in real estate, because this is the fun part where we get to be creative and we get to really figure out how to make this a win-win, okay? The last option is both. So what a seller can, or what a buyer can do is say, you know what, there are some big ticket items on here, but I only want them to address 2 things. And instead of doing any of the other repairs, I want to ask for money to go towards my closing costs instead of those repairs. And so in that case, that's what they'll do. They'll say, seller, I want you to do these 2 things. And for the rest of the stuff, I want money in lieu of repairs. Now, I think for all parties involved, it's really, really important to understand, number one, an inspector is going to find something wrong with every single house. I've had inspectors inspect new construction and they find something wrong. That is the nature of what they do. They inspect properties and look at them as if they are being constructed today, okay? So sellers in particular, just because a buyer asks for repairs to be completed doesn't mean you have to go into this emotional state and get all upset because you're insulted by, you know, them asking for certain things. This is part of the game. And I really think that when you have that perspective and you understand that an inspector is going to find something, that's what they're hired to do, it kind of brings the level of stress down, okay? I think for the most part, buyers and sellers alike should focus on how to achieve a win-win, because it is possible. I do this every day, guys, okay? Now, one of the questions that I get all the time is, well, why would a buyer not want some of the repairs to be done by the seller? Why would they want to take the money? Really good question. A lot of buyers want to select who does the work. So if you are one of those people where either you're handy or you have friends or family that are in, general contracting services or roofing services or what have you, sometimes it's easier, better, and you want to be able to choose who does the repairs. So in that case, a buyer may want to opt for the money instead of the repairs. But I think in all of this, guys, the number one thing to remember is that everything is negotiable, and that controlling or managing your emotions in such an emotional process. Buying and selling is an emotional process, especially if you're, selling a house that you've owned for many years, or buying your first home. It can be emotional, but I think with the proper perspective and with understanding your options as a buyer and a seller when it comes to repairs, you're able to go in with a level head and really achieve the win-win, which is selling your home and getting the buyers their first or new home, I hope this was helpful. And like I said, this is one of my favorite parts of doing real estate, being a broker. If I can be of assistance or a resource to you or your friends or your family, make sure you reach out to me at kingrealtytx.com. We're all over social media at King Realty Texas on Instagram and Facebook. And if you visit us on YouTube, type in King Realty TX. More videos coming. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.